we do our gatherings, not support groups, but gatherings.
Okay.
And I remember
What's the distinction?
the listening piece. And also, the biggest piece is sitting in council, which is sitting in circle, and maybe passing around a heart stone or a talking stick, but whoever holds the stone is being listened to. And we don't allow for interruptions. Oftentimes, in my opinion, though support groups can be valuable, I find them often to be where people are talking over one another and too much advice giving, or you need to do this. So there's lots of projecting going on sometimes.
Lots of shoulds.
A lot of shoulds. Yeah. And so in our sitting in council, we really learn to listen to one another. And we're holding that space where people are actually kind of sitting in the fire with you. Which doesn't mean anyone has to say anything, because oftentimes when you have a gathering, whether it's a men of ALS gathering where there's just men who have ALS, or they're men who are brothers, sons, fathers, best friends. And we do the same thing with women. Or we do caregiver gatherings strictly for caregivers. Mm-hmm. The quality of listening, my hope, is impeccable, because it gets back to when we can listen to one another, that authentic self can emerge. And maybe that vulnerable side can emerge, and we just witness what goes on. I've seen a grown man ball up like a child and slide off his chair onto the floor, and obviously someone else wanted to go help, and I would say, please leave him be. There's something sacred that can possibly emerge when we can truly be with someone and just hold that space and just listen. Sometimes there's nothing to do. It's like being at the bedside.
Yeah.
Too many people want to do something, or many people aren't comfortable. How can we just be with someone and not actually do anything?
Right.
Or,
so that day becomes about my discomfort. Really, the needing to do something is about I'm uncomfortable, and I want to fill that time with something that eases my discomfort, rather than just being with, which is what really can provide a source of healing or a source of comfort.
Yeah. Or I'm going to touch you. There's this that goes on.
Yeah.
Or it's okay. And it's like this takes someone out of the moment. Okay. And even at the bedside of someone who's actively dying, if it's appropriate that I'm there, and sometimes I am, and that's another whole conversation, because sometimes I choose not to be because I don't need to be. If I find that I need to be, I'll consciously not be, because there's a need.
Okay.
All right. There's a need, a hidden need, and I try to explore what that might be. So I've learned to go left rather than go right. I talk about that in my book as well. Mm-hmm. But to be with someone, whether we're sitting in council or we're at the bedside, sometimes maybe there's nothing need be said. And to be able to sit in silence can create extraordinary connection. Mm-hmm. And yet for some people, silence can be disconcerting and very scary. And sometimes at the bedside, people need to do all of this. And what I've learned, sometimes all of the rubbing and the touching can actually be overstimulating. Alrighty, I've seen it. I've seen someone who's kind of like winding down in a very peaceful, beautiful way, and all the rubbing and overstimulation brings them back.
Okay.
All right, I've seen it. And so, how to do this work, how to be with people with ALS, a fatal illness, all right, or Alzheimer's, or Parkinson's, or Huntington's. How do we just learn to be?
It's a similar conversation, yeah. How do
Honestly,
we be with?
It's the same conversation.
Yeah.
It's being with.
Yeah.
And
it's dropping into being really present without an agenda or expectation, and
to change
and
the
understanding
outcome.
what is happening in real time, and responding to that without a plan.
And oftentimes what can happen for us through CCALS or our nurses, folks from MGH or any hospice group, if we can know how to truly, truly show up in the most appropriate of ways, what we're actually doing is we can be in that space in a stealth kind of way. Stealth care is the very best care I know.
I love that. I've not heard of that.
And it just can actually
Picture you
bring,
guys in like Ninja Warrior.
well, kind of like the
Okay,
Sherpa, okay?
Okay.
We carry the water. But if we can do that, and family is gathered, or even if family isn't gathered, or friends are gathered, for the person who's actively dying, there can bring a calmness. We can bring a calmness, as
I've
I was
seen you do
speaking to
it.
before.
Yeah.
And that's incredibly important.